Well, good morning. It is good to see you here this morning. I'm Carol Hinguler. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke. I'm Carol Hinguler, your worship associate this morning, and it is so good to see you here, and it is so good to see our friends on YouTube also. To those of you who are here, I see your bright, shining faces, probably because it's such a beautiful summer day, and we're hoping that that winter weather is not coming back. Now, I cannot see your shining faces on YouTube, but I know that you're there, and I know that your faces probably are shining too. So we're always happy to have you with us too. If we have any visitors with us, we want you to know that we're really, really happy that you are visiting with us, either here in the sanctuary or on YouTube. So we're always happy to have visitors. And we hope that you have a meaningful experience, and we hope you come back. Now, our minister, Rev. Walter LaFleur, is in the pulpit this morning. Right now, I've lost my piece of paper that says the name of his sermon. Something about that which remains. Thank you. He didn't know that I forgot. Yes, I'll do that again. So our minister, Reverend Walter LaFleur, is in the pulpit this morning, and his sermon is That Which Remains. Oh, we have two requests for you. Those of you in the sanctuary, please be sure that your cell phone is silenced. We appreciate that. Those of you on YouTube, we really don't care if you silence your cell phones. That's up to you. But we do want to tell you that if you have something you would like included in the joys and concerns that we do later on in the service, if you get that in the chat in the next 10 or 15 minutes, we will do our best to include that in the joys and concerns in the later part of the service. Thank you. Matthew. Oh, Matthew. Okay.
Been coming up here so much, I feel like I need a walk-up song to psych everybody up. I'm giving you an update on the generosity campaign this morning. It started a few weeks ago, and we've been doing this pretty much on a weekly basis. So far, we've raised $162,000 towards our goal of $250,000. We have 73 pledges so far. I'm going to give you just a little bit of the statistics that have come in case you're wondering about deeper information than just that. The average pledge so far this year is $2,219. The median pledge is $1,500, so that means half the pledges are larger than that, half the pledges are smaller than that. We only have one new pledge this year from somebody that did not repeat or somebody that didn't pledge last year. Of the 73 pledges that we have so far this year, 33 people have increased their pledge from last year. 31 pledges have stayed the same, and 8 pledges have decreased. And 47 pledges that we received last year have not yet pledged. So in my view, it looks like it's going to be tough to meet our target. A few words to that. If you're new to UUCR, the annual generosity campaign is where we raise most of the funds that go to operating the church. You may wonder why we do that as we pass the plate, but the majority of the money comes from the annual campaign, not from passing the plate. If you're new, come find me after the service. We can talk about stewardship, and I'm happy to tell you how to pledge to the church. If you repeat the same pledge year after year, consider that every year things get more expensive, and as a result, our budget also increases to accommodate for the rising prices of things. There was one graphic I wanted to share, James. I don't know if we can put it. Oh, we did. We put it together. So this is every pledge that's been made this year, from the high of $12,000 from one pledge to an $80 pledge. And we know that you can only decide what is the right pledge for you. My personal belief is that if it's important enough to people will pledge generously, and that will cover what we need to cover. We also talked about the UU Fair Share Guide, where that recommends somewhere between 3% and 5% of your household income as a pledge. We know that people's ability to pledge and to give varies, but everybody's capable of deciding what's right for them. And we're simply sharing this to be transparent and maybe to inspire you a little bit. If you haven't pledged yet, please consider the fair share guidance, consider last year's pledge, and think about if there's a possibility for you to increase that pledge. If you've already pledged and heard something this morning that might make you reconsider, you can go back to the pledge online, make a second pledge or increase your pledge. If we want to fully fund the budget that we'll be voting for in a couple weeks at our annual meeting, simply we're going to need to increase our fundraising capacity, and the generosity campaign is the best way for us to do that. So if you're still waiting to pledge, don't wait any longer. Don't make us sweat. Give generously. Thank you. One other piece, we have been supporting a pop-up coffee hour through the generosity campaign. We have done it in the front a few times. Last weekend, we did it next to the playground, and it was much easier for people to stop by on their way out to accommodate people that can just come out the door. So we'll do it next to the playground again this afternoon and enjoy this wonderful weather after the service. Thank you.
Good morning. I'll ring our bell 7 times in honor of our 7 Unitarian Universalist principles. Our covenant. We commit to supporting each other with respect and direct communication as we work in community to explore spiritual growth and to be a force for good in the world. Our opening words this morning come from Whistling in the Dark by Frederick Buechner. Even 1,000 miles inland, you can smell the sea and hear the mewing of gulls if you give thought to it. You can see your mind's eye, the living faces of people long dead, or hear in the mind's ear the United States Marine Band playing the Stars and Stripes Forever. If you work at it, you can smell the smell of autumn leaves burning or taste a chocolate malted. Imagining is perhaps as close as humans get to creating something out of nothing, the way God is said to. Our chalice lighting words will also come from Frederick Buechner. When you remember me, it means that you have carried something of who I am with you, that I have left some mark of who I am on who you are. It means you can summon me back to your mind, even though countless years and miles may stand between us. The words of Frederick Buechner.
Light we now kindle, inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of life.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to be with you today. Obviously, I'm substituting for Jesse, who couldn't be here. The children's story today encompasses living in the present to affect the future. In other words, live mindfully in the now to make it easier to stop dwelling in the past or worrying too much about the future. It is also a part of the Earth Day message, which was this past Friday. And the story is called Protector of the Ocean by Elisa Nicole Schellebeck, illustrated by Melissa Pham. And I'm sorry you can't see the illustrations, but they're wonderful. And she says, she's a school teacher, and she says this book is dedicated to all the children today who will make a difference tomorrow. Kea lived near the ocean. She always had. For as long as she could remember, it was her and the ocean. She was an adventurer who was curious about the ocean and all it had to offer. Each day, she would explore the shoreline, and each day, she discovered something new. One day, she found something spectacular. It was a baby sea turtle stuck in the sand. Kaya slowly reached out her hand when she heard a loud squawk. She looked up and noticed a hungry seabird. It was stalking the baby turtle, ready to soar down and scoop it up. Before the seabird could get a chance, Kaya carefully pulled the baby turtle out of the sand. It smiled at her delightfully. "Thank you, you saved me," the baby turtle squeaked. "My name is Bella." Kaya's eyes widened in amazement. "You can speak?" she asked. "You protected me. I can trust you to keep this secret," Bella replied. Kaya smiled and gently placed the turtle near the shore. Bella disappeared beneath the waves of the vast ocean. That day, Kaya declared herself protector of the ocean. Every day after that, she swam with Bella. They quickly became best friends. They explored the coral reefs together from sunrise to sunset. When Kaya saw a creature in danger, she would protect it. The summer was wonderful, but it quickly came to an end, and it was time for Kaya to go to school. Even though she was busy with homework and meeting new friends, she would still visit Bella each week. The turtle also met new friends, but none were as special to her as Kaya. Kaya taught Bella new games, and Bella showed Kaya new discoveries. They enjoyed the wonders of the ocean and helping the creatures within it. Kaya continued to visit the ocean year after year after year, but each year she spent less time at the ocean than the last. By the time Kaya started high school, she barely had time to visit Bella, but she thought about her friend often. "Why don't you come to swim as often?" Bella asked her one day. "I am very busy with school, homework, and activities, but I promise I will always come back and protect the ocean." "Are you happy?" Bella asked. "Yes," replied Kaya. The turtle smiled. "Then so am I." In what felt like a blink of an eye, Kaya went off to college, far away, to study for what she wanted to be when she grew up. But she had no idea what her calling was. She often found herself dazing off during class, dreaming of the adventures she and Bella had explored in the ocean. She missed her turtle friend. She wondered what Bella was doing right now. Kaya decided to take a trip back home to visit after being away for a long time. When Kaya got home, she dashed to the ocean. When she pushed through the palm leaves, she was saddened to see that the beautiful shoreline where she used to adventure had changed. She hopped over pieces of trash and dove beneath the water. The coral reef that she and Bella had once frolicked in was no longer vibrant and beautiful. It was now covered in plastic bottles, bags, straws, and other pieces of garbage. "What happened to this place?" she thought. "I need to find Bella." As she swam further, she noticed Bella swimming with a piece of plastic hanging from one of her flippers. When Bella heard Kaya coming, she spun around and gleamed. Kaya swam towards Bella and removed the piece of plastic from her flipper. "You came back for us," Bella said. "Please help me protect my babies. Our home is not the same." At that moment, Kaya remembered her calling was to protect the ocean. She decided she was going to create a device to clean up the pollution. She was going to become an environmental engineer. More years went by, and Kaya was standing in front of the hundreds of people on the same shoreline she had explored as a child, presenting the device that would clean up the plastic pollution in the oceans. "And for 3 years, my team and I have worked on this design. This technology will help remove trash from the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is where most of the ocean's garbage is collecting. This will protect our oceans and animals that live within it. But we still need everyone to do their part to keep our wildlife safe," Kaya announced. The crowd cheered loudly. Kids jumped up and down excitedly. One shouted out, "Save the turtles!" Kaya smiled proudly at the crowd and gave a wink to Bella, who was watching from the ocean. Off in the distance was a young boy exploring the shoreline. Something peculiar caught his eye. When he moved closer, he noticed it was a baby bird stuck beneath a fishing net. He removed the net and carefully scooped the baby bird up into his hands. It smiled at him thoughtfully. "Thank you," the baby bird peeped. "You saved me." The boy smiled and gently placed the baby bird on the sand. The bird scurried away, happy to be free. He removed the net and carefully, that moment, he declared himself protector of the wildlife. And so it goes to the next generations. How can you be a protector of the ocean? Learn as much as possible. You can read books, watch documentaries, visit aquariums, or explore the ocean yourself. Use less plastic. Since plastic can end up in the ocean and destroy habitats, try to limit your use of plastic by using reusable materials like reusable water bottles, bags, and more. Help pick up trash at the beach or in your neighborhood. Take a litter walk with your family or participate in a group cleanup. You can even organize your own group cleanup. And that's our story today about living in the present and protecting the future. We invite all of the children and those young at heart who would like to come outside with us in the back, close to the coffee, it sounds like, where we're going to build fairy houses this morning. Okay?
Had to get the right paper, too many papers. You don't want the announcements now. Okay. This morning's reading is called Connecting Past to Present and is by Johann N. Neem. History enriches our experience and understanding of our lives, but we must learn to see the history around us everywhere. We are surrounded by historical questions waiting to be asked. Why does our government work the way it does? Why do people walk or talk or dress as they do? Why do we eat what we eat or not eat what we do not eat? Whether we are walking down the street or trying to understand something we read or saw on the internet, history connects the past to the present, helping us understand how our world and we came to be. When we look upon the world historically, we open ourselves up to new insights about the present, and the world around us comes alive. It is filled with questions. True historians know that the joy of history is found in those questions, not just in answers. Learning history also encourages our sense of belonging. Each of us is part of multiple communities that give our lives meaning. We belong to nations, small groups, and professions. We are shaped by our economic conditions, our ethnic backgrounds, and our gender. Understanding the overlapping and sometimes contradictory histories of these different communities deepens our connection to them. We gain insight into, appreciation for, and sometimes a necessary skepticism regarding our own beliefs and practices. We become better caretakers of our communities, even when that requires using historical knowledge to criticize the present. Most of all, we discover that we are not the first to wrestle with the kinds of questions that possess us. We have much to learn from those who preceded us. History sheds light on the most important issues we face today. Take the idea of race. The writer James Baldwin wondered in 1965 why we see people as black and white. Racism is not natural, but most people took it for granted. They did not recognize that their ideas about race were shaped by history. As Baldwin observed, quote, "The great force of history comes from the fact that we carry it within us, are unconsciously controlled by it in many ways, and history is literally present in all that we do." I'm going to read that again. The great force of history comes from the fact that we carry it within us, are unconsciously controlled by it in many ways, and history is literally present in all that we do. It could scarcely be otherwise, since it is to history that we owe our frames of reference, our identities, and our aspirations. And that's the end of the Baldwin quote. That's the end of today's reading.
You may have heard, we've recently begun another group conversation focused on death and dying. Thank you. It's an important but not an everyday conversation. As people were talking about their thoughts and experiences with the subject of death, I was reminded of my own. I once worked with a family to bury the ashes of a long-time beloved member of a congregation at the base of a dogwood tree planted in his honor. It seemed to me the family and a few members of the church brought the man back to life, not literally, but in the lived experience of him. I hesitated to say we brought him back to life. It sounded callous, maybe irreverent in a way. But as I thought about it, that is what we were doing. Each of us there at that ceremony, we lived our experience of the man. Our memories of him were in the present tense. He was very much alive in that moment in our lives. We remembered our times with him. We told joyful and funny stories of our time with him. The physical and visible part of him, his ashes, were buried at the base of that tree. Helen Keller once said, what we have once enjoyed, we can never lose. All that we love deeply becomes a part of us, end quote. If true, as long as any of us, those of us who were there at that time, He will become, or he has become, a part of who we are. I'll never forget the first time I met Mel. He was hanging from the ceiling in the kitchen. Only his feet were visible. He was the go-to handyman of the congregation. And Sunday morning, he was climbing into the ceiling of the kitchen to make some repair for us. We're a culture that lives so much in the present tense, often with a focus on the future. Our tendency, I suspect, is to relegate the past to the past, as if packaged in a box and left in a closet, not present here and now. I've come to believe we as a culture underestimate the degree to which the past is alive in our lived experience. Question: where were you when JFK was assassinated? My guess is you can remember how old you were, where you were when you first heard the news. You can probably feel some of those feelings that you felt at that time if you let yourself. I was in 6th grade. Mr. Stevens, one of my all-time favorite teachers, was teaching science. It was the middle of the afternoon. He was called to the office, and when he came back, his face signaled something was not right. He even looked like he may have been crying. I don't remember exactly what he told us about the news, but we all knew it was not good. I don't even know if we understood the significance of what he was telling us that afternoon. It was either close to time school was normally to let out, or we were let out early. That part I just don't remember. I know we weren't in class very long that day. I walked home as usual, and when I went inside, Mom was in the living room watching television, an extremely unusual event. She was crying. I remember her saying, "They shot President Kennedy." It was Friday. We watched a lot of news for several days. Where were you? What are your memories of that day, that time frame? There are other events that stayed with me over many, many years. The first landing on the moon, 9/11, my daughter's face, the first time I saw her. Selma's Bloody Sunday, MLK's assassination, all still elicit vivid images in my mind's eye. We never know when we'll be taken back into our own history, our experience of our history at least. We never know when we'll hear an old song that brings back memories, experiences, rushing back into our awareness. What images have come back to you as I've been speaking? Favorite memories, unwanted memories. Suddenly, we can be transported into that time and that place, part of our lives that had been hidden from view, hidden from review. They can be relived in just a moment's notice. We can feel the sadness of that time, the sadness of the place. We can feel the energy or the joy and excitement. Words come back without effort, and we sing along to the song that's now part of history. We might want to relive that time in that place, or be very glad that it's over and gone. At a small dinner party, we were talking about the Grand Canyon. Without recognizing when and how the conversation shifted, someone was explaining why she didn't put sugar in her coffee. She told how her mother had grown up with few means. Sugar was an extravagance, not to be wasted in tea. So this grown woman sitting at the table had incorporated her mother's habit, her mother's experience, her mother's point of view into her own life. Her lived experience was that sugar was not meant for tea. Do you use sugar in tea? The conversation easily moved to other areas of our lives, significantly impacted by our prior experiences. My father lived during the Depression. He, like others, attributed those years and experiences to having had a lasting impact on his behavior. The apartment I grew up in had a good-sized storage room near the back door, off the kitchen. It was Dad's space. It was packed front to back, side to side, top to bottom. But there was a lane headed toward the back. For the most part, he knew what was there, and he knew where it was. He saved things. He used things sparingly and was known to repurpose them. Now, I did not experience the Great Depression, but I'm convinced I got to save it because you might need it sometime. Gene from him. Much to my wife Yvette's chagrin. I do believe these things can be passed down through generations. If not by genetics, then by some process yet to be identified. They travel. Some interesting research has been done in the area. Psychologists have studied family trees and found that not only genetics are passed through generations, but also behavioral traits as well. It seems it's not at all unusual for patterns to be passed from one generation to another, even skipping generations. Patterns of how people deal with feelings, for example, can travel across generations. Clearly, there are dynamics that we recognize and stereotypically associate with particular cultures. Emotional Greeks and Italians, stiff upper lip of the British, flamboyant colors of African and Caribbean cultures, associations we make. But even within cultures, behavioral traits or how people respond to emotions are often passed down through generations. Like a river flowing through generations, as one of my professors told us as we were studying death and dying. Many families have cross-generational history of members with a tendency to abuse alcohol or drug abuse. There are families with generational histories of suicide. There's a fair amount of documentation, that suggests how people deal with death is correlated with their family's history and experience with death. While much of that which remains may not be visible to the eye, we're surrounded by visual cues of the past. Mountains, Great Lakes, and rivers we experience in the present tense, but they're reminders of time gone by. The Earth has known glaciers for more than 2.5 million years. The last great glacial period occurred between 22,000 and 11,700 years. Time gone by. During that time, glaciers advanced and retreated, leaving their marks, leaving their history behind. They radically changed the geography north of the Ohio River. The ice sheet covered much of Canada, the upper Midwest, New England, and parts of Idaho, Montana, and Washington State. The retreat of the ice helped to create the Great Lakes, Niagara Falls. The retreat of ice left what we now call Long Island, Block Island, Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, Sable Island. It even left grooves in the rock formations found in New York's Central Park. Footprints of the past we experience today. On a smaller scale, the Grand Canyon is only 277 miles long, 18 miles wide at its maximum width. The Colorado River has been its architect for some 5 to 6 million years. Its mile-high excavation displays some 40 identifiable layers of rock. I marvel at the sight of it. At certain times of the day, it's a kaleidoscope of color. And I've wondered, what would the world have been like during each of those layers when they were visible? History, present tense. While I've enjoyed thinking about rock and land formations and how they came to be, what takes my breath away is the night sky. My mind boggles at the concept of light years. I can't fathom the number of stars in the sky. If there is such a thing as a miracle, the night sky has got to be near the top of the list. Think about it. The farthest sky we can see with our naked eye, part of the constellation of Cassiopeia near the North Star, 16,300 light years away. How the hell did they know that? It amazes me. One light year is equal to almost 6 trillion miles. It's how far light can travel in 1 year. I can't get my head around 1 trillion miles, let alone 5.9 of them. History, present tense, what's real? Our closest star is really quite faint to the naked eye, and it's only a little over 4 light years away. That means the nearest star to Earth is over 25 trillion miles. That star may not exist today, in fact, even as we see it in our night sky, because we're looking into history. But it appears to be right there. Time. Time is an interesting concept. I had a boss once who used to encourage us not to be overly concerned about mistakes we made. He'd say, in 100 years, no one will care. Well, he said it a little bit more forcefully. How we see ourselves in reference to time varies greatly. At one moment, while very young, we can see ourselves as a little boy. Or the very next day, that little boy might say, but I'm only 5, right? Perception is fluid. With age, we can perceive ourselves to have accumulated wisdom, or we can see ourselves as over the hill. Perception matters. Depends on how you look at it, or maybe simply how you feel in the moment. We can view time in moments or in light years. A reference point makes the difference. We can see ourselves as self-made, independent people, or we can recognize that we are part of a family tree with extensions that go back long before our time. If we take the long view, we can assume things will work out in the end. Or we can be tethered to the past and assume everything will remain exactly the same as it is in this very moment. Either way, time does march on. It's our relationship with time that makes the difference. The sages counsel that we neither take a long view of time or be constrained by it. They tell us both, in a real sense, are an illusion. They tell us the only thing that truly exists is this very moment. Just this very moment. And that life, the existence itself, consists merely of moment upon moment, upon moment, upon moment. This moment, then the next moment, and then the next. The sages tell us there is only now. Repeatedly, there is only now, this very moment. All else is history, existing in its present form, or the future existing in our mind's eye. For there is only this moment. And we perceive it as here and now, as history, or as a future notion. We would do wise, folks, to adopt the perspective of the sages. Such a worldview opens up so many possibilities that would never otherwise be available to us. It allows us to find optimism, even in times of ugliness in the world. Optimism that we can heal rifts within families. Optimism that allows us to find some happiness even during dark days. May your life be full of being in the moment, then the next moment, which, as it turns out, is this moment, conceived within our minds. This very moment is all that you are guaranteed. So I'd like to suggest you take advantage of it. Live in the here and now. Put the now to good use, because the past and the future are all now. May it be so. May our awareness remain in the now and live our lives accordingly. Amen. And Ashe. Our plan in the moment is to take up an offering that'll allow you to leave some sense that you were here this day. An offering will be gratefully received. I'll give it to you in a moment. It is good that you are here. We're glad that you are here. Thank you for coming to be a part of our here and now as this congregation steps into its future. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Terry Smith, here to represent the Caring Committee. We are a group that, among other things, chronicles the joys and concerns among the members of our congregation, members and friends. We invite you, when you have something to share, to send it to the church office in care of Samantha, or you can call Sally Garber or email her. She's head of the Caring Committee, and we'll be glad to pass along your news. I want to call your attention to Michael Adams. He's in the hospital at Lewis Gale after complications from an earlier surgery, and he asks that you keep him in your prayers. And Beth Carruthers had a very special treat this week. Her brother from Tucson, Arizona, came to visit her. It's the first time they'd been together in 3 years, she said. Yuma, Arizona. Not at all Tucson. I'd also like to remind you that we have the pebbles with water. There's a table here and one in the smaller room where you can share a silent joy or concern by dropping a pebble into the water. And now, shall we light the candle?
Join me in a time of prayer, meditation, and reflection. God of all creation, knower of knowing, be with us this day. We come to this time, to this place, believing we know more than we in fact know. We come to this time with wants and needs that we are not aware of having. We come to this time as mere human beings. Grant us the wisdom to see behind the veil of hubris, beyond the drive of mere want, beyond our ability to truly know. Grant us the ability to just be who we are as we are, able to take another breath and breathe in acceptance of what is as it is. Help us to shed the want to orchestrate the future, to know that what is built on what has been, and what will be is grown out of this very moment. May we choose well what we do with this moment, the only moment that can be assured. Amen.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul.
Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine Hoffman, President-elect and member of the board. I'm going to give you a brief board report. We met last Tuesday. Here's a brief summary. We got a tour of the green lot across the street where Bill Hackworth and company have done a ton of cleaning work. We're in the process of getting an arborist to cut some of the dangerous branches that overhang the sidewalk on Brandon Avenue, and invite you to go over there and look at all the work they've done. You may have noticed a new concrete stoop outside the front door. It's the first stage of installing the accessibility ramp. So we're excited about that. The ramp should be installed in the next few weeks. The pledge campaign is bubbling along. You saw that report. The annual meeting has been set for Sunday, July 5th at 11:30 following an abbreviated service. June 5th. What did I say? June 5th. Yeah, following an abbreviated service. So please make plans to attend. You'll be voting on new members, new board members and nominating committee on bylaws and on the budget. There will be 2 Q&A information sessions after the packet comes out, one by Zoom on Thursday, May 26th, and one in person after the service on May 29th. Voting will be available online both before and after the meeting. On that topic, we approved a clarification of bylaws language regarding debt and fund management that you will see in the packet. Details in all the information sessions. The board approved the COVID Safety Task Force's recommendation that masking during Sunday services should now be optional. We approved plans to get a new projector. Yay! Hallelujah. The Building Assessment Committee continues its work and should have proposals to share with the congregation later this year. The Facilities Committee, now chaired by Celeste Lee, will be prioritizing and working on a variety of building repair and maintenance projects in this funky old building. We have retained a lawyer to help us negotiate proposed changes in our lease with the Verizon and T-Mobile cell towers in our steeple. It's complicated, but it's a good source of income for us. The committee to consider an 8th UU principal is formed, and you will hear more soon. And Reverend Walter encourages members to consider joining him and Yvette in attending the NAACP fundraising banquet at a UU table on Friday, May 6th. It costs $70. See Reverend Walter or Don Wages if you're interested. If you have questions about these or any other issues, I or any of my fellow boardlings will be glad to talk to you. They are Erica Joyner, Gary Mason, Walker Hartman, Matt Livingston, Jill Thompson, and Jean Larson. Thank you. Announcements for you. I don't do that. We are trying to cut back or tighten up announcements a little bit so that we're not constantly repeating the same things that are in the online newsletter or in the order of service or whatever. So we're doing the best that we can on trying to abbreviate. But we do have some things for you. There is, of course, now a monthly newsletter, not a weekly, that we're talking online and I guess printed sometimes, I'm not sure. If you would have a new deadline, the new deadlines for that would be the 23rd of each month for the monthly newsletter. This month, because the 23rd was yesterday, a Saturday, the deadline was extended, and if you have something for the May newsletter, the deadline is 9 a.m. tomorrow, Monday morning. Okay. If you have questions about the deadline, about the newsletter, or anything like that, contact Sam in the office. Now, Kathy Overhalser is asking for volunteers to help sewing because they're working on creating or actually repairing, adjusting the glare-blocking fabric window panels that we're going to be putting back up. So hopefully that will help the situation with trying to see the screen. So they need volunteers. If you have any skill at sewing, would like to volunteer, please reach out to the church office. Let them know you'd like to help with those panels. Next thing, annual picnic. Yes, it's coming back. It's packed. The UUCR annual picnic is Sunday, May 22nd at 11 a.m. See the newsletter for event details. There will not be regular services at church that Sunday. There is the picnic. That's May 22nd. You've already heard about the meeting from Catherine. And she did mention about repairs in the building. And the facilities committee is asking that if you see anything or know anything that perhaps needs repair, to let them know, let Sam, our administrator, know. There's a form apparently on the table in the lobby that if you notice something that needs repair, or you can contact Sam, email her and let her know what you found. So we're going to get everything fixed up. Now, here's something interesting. The Black Church, a documentary narrated by Henry Louis Gates Jr., is being presented by Voices of Faith and our local PBS station. I don't know when that is. Does anybody know?
The third, it's Tuesday, I think the 3rd of May, and then 2 weeks.
Okay, early May. Okay. And co-sponsorship by numerous churches and religious organizations, including our church, UCR. There are 2 separate presentations. Both are free. Those interested can find more information in the newsletter. Or there's a bulletin board notice apparently in the lobby about that also, about the Black Church. Okay, let's see. I was given this. The poetry reading has been rescheduled for Sunday, May 15th at 2 p.m. So if you were all set and ready to go to that poetry reading last time, I don't remember when it was that it was moved, but it's now May 15th at 2 p.m. Lots of original poetry by local poets, including people from our congregation. I'm sure you know who they are. And there'll be an open mic. Free event, donations accepted. Donations accepted at the door. Okay. 2 more things. Rev Walter will be, sorry about that. Woo, sorry about that. It's in the past, it's all the same. It's all the same. It's still in my mind. Rev Walter will be out of town starting this Wednesday. He'll be back the end of the week. He will be here for Sunday service. So he's going to be gone from Wednesday through late Saturday, I guess.
Will not be here for Sunday service.
Oh, he's not?
You're on your own.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said you were, so you're not.
Returning late Sunday.
We're returning late Sunday. We're on our own for next Sunday service, so he's going to be away. And then one more important thing. I would like to introduce to you a special guest that we have here this morning, and that is Dr. Brenda Hill from the NAACP. And she's going to be talking about the 22nd Citizen of the Year Award Dinner. So, Dr. Hill.
Good morning, everyone. It is indeed an honor for me to be here today. And I just loved everything that I have heard. My greeting in the parking lot, my friend Don, and meeting Reverend Walter. It has been a great experience. And yes, I am a product of the 60s. I can remember well what I was doing when our president, Kennedy, was assassinated. We were getting ready for our junior prom, and that was at Central High School in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And that was the saddest prom you've ever seen in your life. All of us were crying. Yes, I can remember when Dr. King was assassinated. I was running the allergy and immunization clinic at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. And we had to go into Washington, D.C., April the 4th, 1968. I'll never forget that scene, the mass chaos, the hurt, and the experience of that. And this was before I was sent to Germany to serve over there for 2 years. But as you remember through your kaleidoscope of experiences in your life, don't forget the good always outweighs the bad. So if you take a calendar and look at the different years of your life, because in the book Passages, every decade there are significant things in your life and experiences that you go through. Some people go through more trauma than other people. Bad things happen to good people. So just evaluate that in your life to expand upon what Pastor Walter was talking about today. And you'll see it's good what you do learn. It's good what you do see that is bad. Okay, because from that, you make the best of each and every day that you possibly can. And we all strive to endeavor to be the best that we possibly can. I come on behalf of the Roanoke branch today because I was raised to give thanks. And I want to read this because this is from the Roanoke branch in AACP. To Reverend Walter LeFleur and members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke, greetings. The Roanoke branch in AACP stands in awe because the UUCR thought about us and demonstrated care and concern for us. We are so grateful for the generous donation of $1,300, which you bestowed upon us. We appreciate your kindness. We also want to thank Don and Joan Wages, who I call Team Wages, for bringing forth our name. These past 2 years, everyone has been affected, some more than others. We have struggled and have continued on our core mission. Your donation will allow us to do more. Thank you. Sincerely, Dr. Brenda L. Hale, President, and Joan Wages, Secretary. I also want to tell you very briefly, I want to be mindful now, because you know I could talk. For 5 years, I had wanted to do a gun buyback in this community because we have epidemics in this country. We lived and have gone through the pandemic, and we're not through with that yet. But there's an epidemic of gun violence, not only in Roanoke, Virginia, but throughout the state of Virginia and across this country. I thought that the Roanoke branch in AACP could make a difference because I'm not afraid to tackle any problem. And doing a gun buyback, the first one we did was last year. I am proud to tell you that from that, we removed 91 weapons out of homes, cars, and hands of individuals. We had an exit survey, and one gentleman said, he's young, mind you, I bought this today because my head was not in the right place. So we did a good thing, and we're going to do it again. Because when you step out on faith, if you're stepping out for the right reasons to do the right things, God will make a way somehow. And we're going to have our second gun buyback on June the 25th. Now, before we get to that, we're having our Citizen of the Year Awards program. Now I want you to think back again. In 1909, why was the NAACP formed? Because of the severe amount of lynchings that were taking place in this country. And believe you me, the board didn't look like me back then in 1909. And we have a diverse organization. It was conceived diverse. And in the Roanoke branch in AACP, we are diverse. In Roanoke, I am the secretary for local colors. We have 105 nationalities here, and we're trying to reflect that in all that we do and say. So I wanted you to know that we're diverse, we will continue diverse, and we have the most diverse awards program in the city. Nobody else can do what we do. So that is why we have our Freedom Fundraiser. And we have not had one in 2 years because of the pandemic. But we want to dress up, listen to some good music, eat some good food, and listen to the Reverend Dr. Gloria Jean Sweetlove, who is the president of the Tennessee State NAACP and a national board member. This woman is known all over the country. And you talking about, you're going to be in a treat when she speaks. Yes, indeed. So if you have an opportunity, please join us. And I thank you for this opportunity, because I was not going to let this day pass without coming forth and saying thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you so much.
Still have tickets available. See you after.
No. So the closing song is The Secret of Life by James Taylor. So bear with me because I learned it this morning. So we'll see how it goes. If you know it, you probably know it better than I do. So you can sing along if you have a mask on. Secret of life is enjoying the passage of time. Any fool can do it. There ain't nothing to it. Nobody knows how we got to the top of the hill. But since we're on our way down, we might as well enjoy the ride. The secret of love is in opening up your heart. It's okay to feel afraid, but don't let that stand in your way. 'Cause anyone knows that love is the only road. Since we're only here for a while, might as well show some style. Give us a smile, isn't it a lovely ride? Sliding down, gliding down, try not to try too hard, it's just a lovely ride. Now the thing about time is that time isn't really real. It's just your point of view. How does it feel for you? Einstein said he could never understand it all. Planets spinning through space that smile upon your face. Welcome to the human race. Some kind of lovely ride. I'll be sliding down, I'll be gliding down. Try not to try too hard, it's just a lovely ride.
Isn't it a lovely ride? Sliding down, gliding down. Try not to try too hard, it's just a lovely ride. Now the secret of life is enjoying the passage of time.
Yvette and I have bought tickets for a table at this NAACP dinner. And as far as I know, there are additional seats around the table, and I'd like to have all of them filled. So see me or Don for tickets. And if you need some financial support, we can do that. So that is not an excuse. Let's support the NAACP dinner. Thank you. Know that today is all that you have been granted. Know that now is all the time that there is. Use it well. Go into your week in peace. Amen.